It's time for the Sin Bin. 5 minutes for fighting.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the Sin Bin. I am joined today, as usual, by my graciously looking co-host this morning, Alex.
I love you and I hate you.
Get some caffeine in you, buddy, and you'll be feeling a lot better.
You
But
have 4
don't
hours
you
of
just
sleep.
look so
Fuck you.
pretty? Anyway, he's had a rough night. So we're also joined today by our other co-host from the Pucking Around podcast, Harry Rice of Rice Chips. We got an interesting show.
Fuck you too, Harry. I'll have it out for you on Monday.
There's been a lot of contention in this group as of late, so we're hoping to get it all out today in the Sin Bin. We got an interesting topic for you today. It was kind of hotly contested in the main podcast. It was Crosby or McDavid. Who would we prefer as of right now or in general? So why don't we sit back, relax, and watch us drop the mitts, all right? Guys, how we doing this morning?
I do have to step in. I thought the argument was in their prime.
No, I would say Crosby or McDavid.
Just in general.
Right now, it's a little different, but I thought this argument was about their prime.
In general. Just do it in general. Prime or however you want to say.
Prime then. That's what.
Yeah, because I'm doing overall player.
Okay, so you lead us off in our gracious.
Yeah, no, I think that was going to be the argument, like, the overall player. So does everyone agree to that? Can we all agree? Overall player, because if we look at it, here's the thing: if we look at it this way, McDavid's only played 9 years. Crosby's played obviously more than that, so we kind of need to be able to scale things accordingly.
Play double that.
It feels weird that McDavid's already played 9 years. It's absolutely crazy to think about.
So with respect to McDavid, it would be with respect to his whole career, but with Crosby, I'm kind of bringing in both his career and his first 9 years in terms of the analytics that I have today, and so. Judging by my name, you guys could probably tell that I'm definitely Team McDavid. I personally just think he is a much, much more talented player in terms of skill, in terms of hockey IQ. They might be more equivalent than we're led on to believe, but I'm definitely Team McDavid. What about you, gentlemen?
If you're taking from the right now perspective, then obviously I'd say McDavid is the better player. But if we're talking which player I'd rather have in my prime based off of what they can do, their full entirety of their game, if you're going to put accolades into perspective and everything, I'm taking Crosby, as much as it pains me to say it. I almost threw up in my mouth a little bit saying that because I can't stand Sidney Crosby and how much he's fucking Henny dicked my franchise. I'm about to go on a tirade, but yes, I would.
That's fine. Hey.
If we're talking,
the Flyers fan admits to actually liking a Penguin.
I don't fucking like him. I hate his guts. There's a difference between liking a guy and respecting a guy. But I respect how damn talented Sidney Crosby is. He plays a phenomenal 200-foot game. He's had an incredible career. He's won 3 Stanley Cups. He's been to 4. He's got, I think he has 2 Hearts, if I remember correctly. He missed 2 full seasons, and he's already 11th all-time in the all-time points list. Imagine if he didn't miss those 2 full seasons, how much higher he'd be.
Actually, Alex, if you do the numbers, he's only missed 70 games.
I thought
out of those injury seasons, he did not miss 2 full
seasons.
They were not, but the games did not add up to 2 full seasons. That's my point being. So you have
it was so long, so that was more just a rough guess.
I understand what you're saying. Like he definitely just missed like basically the majority of the seasons. That much I'll agree with you that he missed that. But in terms of the total games missed in that time frame, he did not miss like up to a full season. He did play a fair amount of games within that time.
I will say my argument for that is when you're coming back from post-concussion syndrome, especially with that much time off of the ice, I feel like it's going to take you a little bit of time to get going. I think he came back in the 2012 season leading into that bad blood series that we had with them. That was one of my favorite series of all time. But and he pretty much stepped back on the ice. It took him a little bit to get going, but once he did, he was back to Crosby like form. I hate to say that. He plays a fantastic 200-foot game. He's been not a Selke candidate, but mentioned in the Selke running before. So that obviously complements his 200-foot game. He's always been almost pretty much a constant point per game player every single year of his career. He played during not the dead puck era, but the next closest thing to it in the mid 2010s. And he was always constantly putting borderline or up to 100 points. And I think that's something you got to look at. Where in today's era, it's a lot easier to score. You're seeing probably more than a goal per game more. McDavid, I think, is a better skater. Actually, he's a better shooter for sure. And I think he's definitely better stick handler, but I think Crosby has a little bit higher of an IQ. He's better in the faceoff dot, a little dirtier in the faceoff dot, but that's besides the point. Broke Claude Giroux's wrists or fucked them up bad in 2012. But anyway, but I look at that and it's just when it comes to Crosby, I think it's the air model of consistency. He's always been the prototypical generational 200-foot can do it all type player and elevate everyone around him. That's my for now.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I'm on Team Crosby as well. Alex kind of took the words right out of my mouth. I think he's an amazing playmaker. I think he's one of the best players, at the very least, one of the best players still in the NHL. He's a great two-way forward. He impacts the game on and off the ice. He impacts it in the offensive zone and the defensive zone in a way that McDavid just is not able to. And when it comes down to it, if you're asking me to I got to win a series, I got to pick one of Crosby or McDavid to win me a Stanley Cup, I'm going Crosby 1,000%. I have zero faith in McDavid being able to win me a cup.
And Cam's mic is muted.
Wow. Oops.
Yeah, oops my ass.
Fucking fight me. That's what we're doing right now anyway. I don't like bringing cups into this because it is not just them. It is quite often depth that wins you cups. Mainly because if you look at a lot of top end talent that gets shut down during cup runs, and you need to rely on that secondary scoring. So, but you also need talent on that team to take, away from that. Because if you have a very well balanced team, like, it might be easier for the opposition to kind of shut you down. They can only, they can roll all their lines comfortably or something like that. I just think there's more to it than just having one guy put on the back. But if I'm going to rely on somebody to put a team on his back, I'm going McDavid because the guy single-handedly undresses players on the ice alone. He alone does that. He's the fastest skater. And you guys mentioned accolades, so individual accolades in Crosby's career, and I know it's been longer, so he's actually had more opportunity to win more. So this might not be entirely fair to Crosby. Crosby has 3 Ted Lindsay Awards, 2 Harts, 2 Art Ross, 2 Rocket Richards, and 1 Mark Messier. In McDavid's career, he has 4 Teds, 5 Art Ross, 3 Hart, and 1 Rocket Richard. That's 13 McDavid compared to 9 Crosby in individual accolades. Just to kind of bring those up. I'm not going to count the cups. Yes, Crosby has 3 cups.
What I'm doing here, I'm counting the 3 rings. I can't believe I'm defending fucking Crosby, but I'm counting the 3 rings.
But like I said, I'm assessing a player. I'm not assessing the team's winnability because I think winning a Stanley Cup takes more than just a single player. I think it's a team. Absolutely. I think it's a team effort. But I'm going to continue on with the career, and then you guys can let me know what you guys think so far. So these are the career numbers. So basically for McDavid, it says 9 years. Crosby, this is going to be his entirety. So it's a little, again, skewed in somewhat McDavid's favor. And then I'll explain to you what I did later to kind of scale it necessary to be more comparable. So I did this on a points per game basis because I think that's the fairest way to assess the kind of point totals here because Crosby did miss a lot of time. So I think that's the best way to handle the situation. So career-wise, Sidney Crosby has 1.25 points per game as opposed to McDavid's 1.5. Crosby did that in 1,243 games, McDavid 619. So McDavid clearly has the edge there. He has the capability to score more per game. Not by much, mind you, but pretty comparable in my eyes. On the face-off dot, there's no question about it. I think Crosby is one of the better face-off people all along the line. So Crosby's going to take that at 52.5.
Except when he slashes Claude Giroux's wrists.
Except when he does that, sure. But, you can get over it.
Dirtbag.
You need to be completely unbiased in this from your own team. I know that's very difficult for you. And then let's look at McDavid's career at 47.7. So not great, right? So obviously I would take Crosby for faceoffs in that scenario. Game-winning goals, though. This would the career. This might not surprise you, but this is kind of a crazy number. So over Crosby's long career, right? He has 90 game-winning goals. McDavid has 66. That's kind of a big difference right there from what I see, because I would say Crosby's played about twice as long.
Hmm.
So he's going to surpass that in terms of so now I'm going to go into the first 9 years. So this is going to be McDavid's career and then Crosby leading into his prime, because that's where McDavid is leading into, correct?
Mm-hmm.
This is where the plus minus kind of comes in. So we mentioned defensive player. In terms of plus minus, Crosby is a plus 124. McDavid is a plus 137. Because I know, Harry, you kind of had some gripes with McDavid saying he can't play defense. Yes, plus minus is an indicator how much, how many positive things happen while you're on the ice, but it's also an indicator of how many negative things happen while you're on the ice. So they're about a tenth different. Now, here's where it gets more comparable. Points per game in the first 9 years. Crosby's a 1.4. McDavid's a 1.5. So obviously that didn't change. So again, that's a tenth different, or approximately. And games played in the first 9 years, 550 for Crosby versus 619 for McDavid. So see how it kind of evens that out on how I kind of.
What do you have, a damn encyclopedia here?
I did this research because I got so farging frustrated with you guys on Monday.
Honestly, listen, I don't think it's a giant gap, to be honest with you. I think Harry is more Team Crosby than I am. Here's some of the subtle arguments I have. One of them is you bring up the overtime goals. When did the 3-on-3 got implemented into the league?
Right when Crosby came in. Oh, no.
No, that's also fair. It was shortly after McDavid came in. So sure, you can
There you
bring
go.
in the overtime
Crosby
argument.
played in an era when it was mainly 4-on-4 overtime, which makes it a little bit more difficult, a little less open ice, completely eliminates the opportunity. Well, I won't say completely eliminates, but when you have a 5-minute time period, it makes it more difficult to get that because the open ice has been limited.
Sure, and we might need to look at those overtime goals versus non-overtime goals. We could look at those. I don't have those numbers.
The issue with that would be is Crosby played in two different eras. Crosby played. He came into the league in what? I think 03. He came in right away.
05, 06.
05, 06. I'm sorry. That's right. Ovechkin.
That 3v3 has been implemented for 6 years, so he was still playing, I would say.
However, that is
in
true.
the midst of his prime, so he still had equal opportunity.
That is true to an extent, yes. But I would argue that Crosby's prime was more into like the 2010 to 2014 range.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think I'm not saying he completely fell off a cliff after that. He was still extremely good. But when you're talking Pete Crosby, I think 2004 at 14, Sidney Crosby was Pete Crosby.
That's still within it. That was within his first 9 years, like I said. The end of his 9th year was 2013 and 2014. And
but
guess
that was
what?
more just my argument for the 3-on-3 OT.
How many cups did he win in those first 9 years?
One.
One. So
how many did McDavid win?
So far,
none.
0.
How many times did McDavid even get to the West Conference Finals?
Because this is his 9th year. So if he were to win a cup, I would actually be more hard-pressed to say it was more difficult for McDavid to do so just because of the notable names that were on that 2019. It was 2009, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was finals 09. They won the cup.
Yep.
09, they had to get through the Detroit Red Wings, which was in the midst of their friggin' dominance of
They were a powerhouse of a team, but they also had players like Chris Kunitz, Jordan Stahl, who was also coming up in the league. And you can say what you want about Jordan Stahl, but he was a fantastic.
Yes. He was a great player.
Friggin' two-way player. They had Marc-Andre Fleury, who later became one of the greatest goalies to play the game and still is playing. Hal Gill.
When we owned him in 2012. I just like bringing that up.
Hal Gill, Brooks Orpik, Chris Letang, everyone's favorite fucking player in Matt Cook, who probably injured
Yeah, he
half of
sucks.
Detroit's team during that franchise just to get, or that not that franchise, that series just to get them the win. So
Miroslav Shatan, as well.
that's why I'm saying I would rather take McDavid in his prime, because I don't think he has as much talent around him. And Harry, you mentioned Evander Kane. He sucks.
I don't think Evander Kane sucks. I think you're going a little overboard with that.
I don't think Evander Kane is the player that people are making him out
I
to
don't
be,
think
though.
he's the player he used to be in San Jose, but he doesn't suck.
But he's definitely not those players that I mentioned.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, when it comes down to it, he does put up points. He's, I think, still an okay second, third liner. I think you're going to be hurt more for having him on the ice than you are for not having him on the ice. But I mean, McDavid, half the time, doesn't he play with Draisaitl as well anyways? So
He does, and I'm going to give you that. So I'm going to say, like, he does play with Draisaitl, but Crosby also had Malkin at the same time. May not have been on the same line, but they were able to distribute that talent, which made it a little bit easier for them.
Mm-hmm.
Edmonton, I think, is more hard pressed to do that. It's harder for them because they don't have that talent. Yes, they have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who I think scored his first 100-point season last year.
Yes, he did. Yeah,
I know he doesn't play on a line with him, but that Leon Draisaitl guy is pretty good too.
Oh yeah, he is. He's absolutely good.
Pretty all right little third liner, I think.
But I think Leon Draisaitl also kind of, his point production went up too when McDavid came in. So, but it also got him to elevate the play. Now, I think both of these players have the capability to elevate their teams, right? I think they do. I think Crosby will make everyone better around him. I think McDavid will make everyone better around him. I mean, it's just kind of obvious. Zach Hyman, no one knew who the hell that guy was, and I think McDavid turned him into a 20 to 30 goal scorer. He's
looking like he could be a 50 goal scorer this year, actually. I would say.
Yeah, and granted, Zach Hyman has done a lot of that work on his own while this year, but since then, I think McDavid has definitely elevated those players. But I think McDavid has the propensity to make worse players better. I don't think Crosby can make like all of those kind of like Brian Rust, right? I don't think he's making his team that much better around him. That's just my opinion. So I'm obviously Team McDavid. I gave you guys all my reasons why. Quickly, what do you guys think? I didn't want this to be all of my rant on like why I'm right.
I mean,
holy crap! You are an encyclopedia.
I will say that. Yeah, it was very well researched. It was not at all a oh well.
I really wanted this win.
Yeah, because he lost really 2 weeks ago.
Fair. You might be getting it. I don't know, but I mean, to counter the point of McDavid doesn't have the talent, I'd actually argue because he has Leon Draisaitl, who's a second line center, and Nuge, who can end up playing that third line center role. They can roll out at least those three lines, and you have to worry at least about the centerman. I think that actually makes it easier for Conor McDavid because you're only shifting him 1/3 of the time when you actually really need to be. Because Crosby, he had Malkin. Yes, I will obviously give that. That's factual. He had Malkin. But for me, they didn't have an insanely crazy good team aside from 08-09 when they actually were able to roll out the style of hockey that won you a Stanley Cup at that time. Now, especially if you look at it, it really is just Crosby, Malkin, and Jake Gensel on that team that you have to worry about. And Crosby's still going to be nearing just above point per game. Conor McDavid, again, he kind of has it easy because, again, you got to cover Nuge, you got to cover the Nuge, you got to cover Evan Bouchard as well. There's a couple other players on that team that you have to worry about other than just strictly McDavid.
I wouldn't discount the other players on that team. They're old on that team right now, and I think that's their biggest downfall.
The
Jeff
Penguins,
Carter,
right?
Yeah, like Jeff Carter used to be a phenomenal effing player, but he's old. You know what I mean?
He fell off a cliff, and now he can't skate out of it.
Riley Smith won a cup. You kind of just can't discredit that. You know what I mean?
No, I know, but if you're looking at like the top end like star players, who you have to cover that guy 100% of the time.
You could say they have a ton of them.
Feel like that.
No, but you could say they have. Let's just think about it. If Erik Karlsson was even a shadow of his former self, You got to cover him. You got to respect him. Chris Letang, if he
I don't
didn't
think
have
Erik
all
Karlsson's
those
fallen
injuries.
off a cliff yet. Hold on a second. You make it
No,
seem like
I don't think so, but he's definitely not who he was in San Jose, and he's definitely not who he was in Ottawa. There's
He's
a
not. He's 36. That would be pretty remarkable. If
He's
he was still
33.
Yeah, he's 33.
33?
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's not
older
yet.
than that.
No, yeah, surprisingly. Does feel like he's been in the league forever, though.
Feels like he's been in the league forever. I thought he was
Yeah.
older than that.
Yeah.
But point is, he's got a lot of mileage on him. The guy's still in the back nine of his career, regardless. I mean, that Penguins team right now is just flat out old. Like, if we're talking at this point. And Crosby still has a 31-goal season right now, where Malkin looks like he's the wheels are really starting to come off. Chris Letang looks slow. Erik Karlsson's still productive, but their bottom six is completely anemic. They have no secondary scoring, and their D-core is mediocre at best. Like, what Pittsburgh is they didn't address this, at least to go slightly off topic for a second. Pittsburgh didn't address that major need. They needed a really locked down defensive defenseman, and they needed some depth scoring, and they didn't really address either of that.
No.
So, and yet we look at Crosby is still having a career year this year. The guy's probably going to put up 45 goals.
You got to be careful when saying
not career year, but like, you know what I mean.
He's having he's having a year that I would expect out of him. So like, but here's the thing:
with mediocre, not even I won't say mediocre, but regressing talent at him, at aging roster. He's 36, 37 now. I think he's one of the. I think he's 36 still, but he's like the talent around him is clearly a shell of what it used to be as in a cosmos. And he is still putting up extremely productive numbers.
And I think that has to do with some of his hockey IQ as well. But I think there's other players around him that can play. And I think McDavid, when he reaches that age, is going to be the same way. When we talk about these types of generational players, that's kind of like an expectation for me.
I'm very curious to see how McDavid is when his speed starts to fall off. When he gets
Have you seen his hands?
His hands are ridiculous, but his speed
hands would not be where they are without the speed, though.
Exactly.
Oh, I don't know. See, I disagree with that.
McDavid is what?
You don't need to skate that fast to have insane hands. Like you.
But Crosby or McDavid being able to deke through defenders the way he is, he's only being able to do that because of his speed, which is the reason that his hands are able to work so well.
I don't know about that. He pivots quite a lot. Like if you ask a lot of NHLers, it might not just be the speed. Like sure, it's impressive to kind of maintain the puck at that speed, but imagine what they could do at lower speed too. And it's also being able to pivot from side to side, the agility and a couple things, and just being like, using your body. So I think the eventuality for all players in the league is that they're going to start using their body a little bit more. Look at Brad Marchand. He's starting to twist.
He is a girthy individual.
Yeah, he's going to start to twist and turn. He's going to start using his body to set his own picks. That I just think with generational players in the form of Alex Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby, Connor Bedard, Connor McDavid,
Cole Caulfield,
soon to be Matvey Michkov.
And then both of them woke up.
Harry, I'm tearing you apart on Monday.
I'm completely fine with that. I'll be waiting for it, and I'm hoping for the most views we can get.
Yeah.
But those are my arguments. You guys made some really good arguments too. I think it can go either way, but I was surprised when I was doing all those numbers at how close these players actually were.
Did Harry just grab a handful of Fruit Loops out of the box mid-argument?
Yeah, I did.
Well, what a fruit.
Harry, I don't want to make fruitcake jokes right now, but this is getting ridiculous.
You need some caffeine in you there, buddy. We're trying to do a show. We're trying to do a show here.
Listen,
what the fuck are we doing? We're working.
Blender. You're lucky I'm even here right now.
I don't know if I'd call it lucky.
But listen,
I'll
finish with this closing argument, at least in my retrospect. McDavid is ridiculous. The guy is a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think he has a real chance of hitting 2,000 points. I think he has a real chance of ending up with the second most points ever. The guy, I mean, when that speed goes, I still think he's going to be productive. But I think you're taking on a major major part of his game. His speed is ridiculous. His hands are great. I'm not arguing that. But as Harry put it, his speed and hands are correlated. Like when he loses some of that speed, his hands are going to have to at least in a way catch up. I don't know if he's going to I don't know if his handles or puck handling will be quite as devastating when he loses that speed. He's going to use his hockey IQ. He's going to use his body. But I think you're going to see a lot of the opportunity to open up ice around him by combining his speed and hands will be eliminated a little more when he gets to that age.
Oh.
When I look at – go ahead.
One more thing, Alex. I'm sorry, but if you look at the amount of penalties that Crosby got in favor of him versus the penalties that
I won't argue.
Against McDavid. So that's another thing that I want to say. McDavid, they're not calling infractions that happen.
That I will not argue. As a lifelong Flyers fan, that I will not argue.
McDavid gets tripped or he gets like his hands chopped, even because of his speed. They're not calling it. And I'm like, that's clear as day. Crosby used to get hit along the boards, and some of the calls were very, very soft.
I will actually give you
However, I will also counter with McDavid himself can be a very dirty player at times. Just ask Arturi Lehkonen.
I'm not saying, listen, any player in the NHL has the propensity to be a dirty player. They can do crazy things to one another, and it's not okay. I don't condone it. I don't like it, but so has Crosby. Like, you know what I mean? They've all, in one way, shape, or form, have done something along their record. No one has a clean record.
All right, I think that's fair.
That's a fair point to extent, but some people have a dirtier history than others.
Oh,
That's
Matt Cook,
Brendan Gallagher.
Matt Cook, Brendan Gallagher, John Scott, John Steve.
John Scott, we want him on the podcast, so I don't think we could say his name.
Just kidding, John. We love you.
He was a All-Star MVP.
He's a former All-Star MVP.
True.
I'm just saying, as voted by the fans.
I'm gonna see if I can get Chris Therien on here one of these days.
Oh God Almighty!
Oh my God! Shout out Chris Therien.
I love Bundy. He's awesome. Check out the Snow the Goalie podcast, by the way, everyone.
And here we are. We're not promoting our own. We're just promoting everybody else. All right, everybody. Hey, everybody. No, we want to thank you guys for joining in on the spirited debate, even though it's mainly statistics. Hopefully, we kept you guys interested. And with that, that'll do it for our show. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Who won? Who lost? Who's right? Who's wrong? Alex, Harry.
Matt
Mitchkov, give us a like and follow as always, and we appreciate your support. And we'll definitely catch you ringside. Have a good one, everybody.
Hell yeah.
Ciao.
695-294.